Good afternoon and welcome to the podcast. I'm Nick Drago. Coming up, we are near the end of the first round of the NHL and NBA playoffs. A few series have already wrapped up, and some others are closing out this week. Of course, we're going to talk about the MLB season. And did somebody say NASCAR? Yep, I guess we're talking about that too. Stay tuned for another exciting episode of Sports. And welcome back to the only sports show on the block that tickles your eyes and ears with news on all of the sports. For those who didn't watch us on YouTube, first off, shame on you. But secondly, you can now view myself instead of just our logo. And I think that is just plumb dandy. Let's take a peek at all the NHL action from this week as the second round matchups begin to take shape. Let's kick things off with the Snowbird series with the Tampa Bay Lightning. They have been lighting it up on the scoreboard. Game 4 on Wednesday was New Jersey's chance to tie up the series, and honestly, they played okay. It just wasn't enough to stop Nikita Kucherov and his 2 goals to give them the 3-1 victory. Tampa now put the Devils on the brink of elimination with that win. Game 4 ended up being another victory for Tampa, with the score being 3-1. Kucherov had one of those, allowing him to lead the league with 5 thus far in the postseason. As mentioned, this means that the Devils go home early. They'll be practicing their golf swings. Tampa will have a few extra days rest as they await to find out their opponent. And that will be the winner of our original 6 series. Boston, they took home the 3-1 victory on Thursday to beat the Leafs and take a 3-1 lead in the series. Game 5 was last night, and without looking at the final tally, the stats would indicate that Boston was the team to win that game. They basically outshot the Leafs 45-21. They had 6 power play opportunities, but Toronto, they're resilient. They stayed strong, and they held on for the 4-3 victory with goals by Bozak, Van Riemsdyk, Brown, and Johnson. This gives Toronto momentum heading into Game 6, which will be held on Monday. In the I Hate the Penguins series, now this has probably been the most exciting of the first round. Columbus came into Thursday's game with a 2-1 series lead. Now the Caps began the series with Grubauer in net as he finished the season really strong while Holtby kind of struggled. However, they opted for Holtby in Game 3 and 4. Both games, by the way, went to the Caps to tie up the series. Game 5 was a rubber match on Saturday afternoon, and yet again, these two went into overtime. Now, the Blue Jackets played some great hockey, specifically in the third period in which they outshot the Caps 35-11. Only one of those 11 was a shot on goal. This goes to show how little these stats actually mean if the puck doesn't go in. Washington struck hard in overtime with a deflection from Nick Backstrom, putting them over the top and 1 win away from the Metro Division Finals. And of course, the Keystone Series finally started living up to the hype. Game 4, the Pens came out strong, pulling off yet another blowout. Matt Murray recorded his 7th shutout of his young career in the playoffs. Sidney Crosby had a goal and an assist to launch himself ahead of Mario Lemieux for most playoff points in franchise history. Now, Game 5 was on Friday night, and it was the first close game of this series. It went back and forth in the second, with a score going from Flyers to Penguins, and then it was all tied up. But then that tie was broken up by Sean Couturier, who extended the season for Philly, and they went on to play Game 6. That was today, and the most exciting game of the series, and possibly the entire postseason thus far. Philly scores early in the first, with the Pens taking a lead off goals by Hornquist and Gensel. Flyers tie it up and then take a lead at 4-2 in the second period. Pittsburgh then scores 5 unanswered goals. 3 of those by Gensel. His final tally was at 4 for the day, and the final score was 8-5, and the Penguins celebrate while the fans shower them with beer cans and trash. Classy move, Philly. In the Country and Coors Series, Preds fans have not been happy to see their precious team lose to the Avalanche on Friday night. Colorado pushes the series to 3-2 as Nashville would have to wait to punch their ticket to the second round. That game's occurring right now, meaning we'll either see a Game 7 or another 2 weeks of Smashville. The Snowbomb series, meanwhile, was looking to tilt into the Wild's favor after a brawl at the end of Game 2. However, that was not the case when Winnipeg eliminated them on Friday in a 5-0 blowout. They will play the winner of the Preds Avalanche series, so keep a stern eye on that one. And then the last two series, well, they've already concluded, which kicks off our second round discussion. The Los Angeles Golden Knights continue to beat the odds as they swept the Kings in the first round. During that series, they held the Kings to a putrid 3 goals in 4 games. However, they themselves only scored 7. Goaltender Marc-Andre Fleury is off to a hot start, but faces a tough opponent in San Jose. The Sharks are fast, they're a high-scoring team, and they have deep playoff experience after a tough loss in the finals 2 years ago. They scored 13 goals in all 4 games versus the Ducks in the first round. Statistically, it's been Brett Burns and his impressive beard leading the team at the end of the season. In all 4 games between these two this season, the Golden Knights have won 3, with the most recent being on March 31st. That was the game that clinched the division for Vegas. Interestingly enough, the Oakland Raiders fans have been really torn on this series, as Bay Area fans will be rooting for San Jose, and the future Vegas fans for the Golden Knights. Now, the Raiders' Twitter page mistakenly wished the Knights good luck at the beginning of the playoffs, angering local fans. Therefore, I'm calling this the Raiders Kerfuffle series. All right, friends, with that, we'll move on to our first commercial break. However, when we return, NBA playoff recap time. We're going to talk about the MLB matchups from this weekend, and good golly gosh, I'm going to attempt to talk about NASCAR. Stay with us, friends. We'll be right back.
Howdy ho, amigos. I'm Nick Drago, executive producer and host of Sports. Boy, this sure would be a great place for an advertisement. It's a shame you have to listen to my voice instead. If you have some kind of advertisement you want on the air, contact me directly at sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. I'm sure you've heard me say this before, but it's true. We will literally include whatever you want on the air within reason. And since we don't have a large number of subscribers, I'm willing to do it for free. So remember, that email again is sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. Contact us for more info, and let's get back to the show.
And welcome back. It's been quite a basketball week with the first round ending, and of course a lot of drama on and off the court. Let's get into our NBA talk. In our Magical Dinosaur series, the Whiz Kids took home a victory on Friday. That was at home. The final score of that game was 122-103. John Wall and Bradley Beal each scored 28 points to lead the charge. Now, this was a rather heated affair with both teams trading elbows and taunts. Markieff Morris was the prime offender in many of the altercations. This puts Washington back in the series with a chance to tie it up tonight in Game 4. That game's going on as we speak, so I would check the score in the morning to see how they did. Boston looked strong to start off the Who Wore It Best series, taking a victory in Game 1 and 2. Prior to the start of Game 3, it was announced that Green Bay Packers QB Aaron Rodgers had become a part-time owner of the Milwaukee Bucks. Perhaps Rodgers' presence was just what the doctor ordered, as the Bucks, led by Greek freak Antetokounmpo, completely disassembled Boston. Final score being 116-92. Game 4 was this afternoon. It sure was something. The Celts were held to less than 20 points in the first and second quarter, but then scored over 30 in the second 2 quarters. Eventually they tied it up, but then Antetokounmpo had a sweet little tip in, and that gave the Bucks the lead. Either way, the Bucks even the series, and they returned to Beantown on Tuesday. Still not sure if I'm saying that name right. Antetokounmpo. I'm going to have to practice that one. Okay, into the Civil War. The 76ers thought they had it in the bag after crushing it in Game 1. But the Heat pulled off a big win in Game 2. Game 3 was on Wednesday, and everyone in Philly was happy to see center Joel Embiid back on the court, sporting a metallic silver face mask following an orbital fracture. He finished with 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists, living up to his statement that he was going to be a nightmare for Miami. Game 4 was yesterday in the afternoon. The 76ers once again took the W in Miami. In the second quarter, Robert Covington for Philly gave a hard hit to Heat guard Goran Dragic. This led to a little skirmish involving multiple players, even the coaches. So Game 5 is on Tuesday. Make sure you wear a helmet, because I think it's going to be a little chippy. In the next-door neighbor series, LeBron James took over in Game 2, scoring not 1, not 2, not 3, but 46 points. Dang! Cavaliers evened up the series and looked to take over Game 3 on Friday. But those watching the first half, they would have seen a 17-point lead sported by Cleveland as they walked into the locker room and probably said, well, I think Cleveland's got this one, and shut it right off. However, a putrid third quarter in which the Cavs offense was stifled to 12 points combined with turnovers from everyone under sun saw that deficit diminish. Cleveland may have to hit the panic button if they lose in tonight's late matchup. They're currently down 2-1. Moving into the West, don't call it a comeback. Seriously, don't. The Houston Rockets demolished Minnesota in Game 2 Wednesday. No surprise there, the final score being 102-82. But the action doesn't stop there with Game 3 on Saturday, in which the Timberwolves let out all of that pent-up energy to beat Houston 121-105. Home court definitely played a role here for these squads. Minnesota had 3 players top 20 points, while Karl Anthony Towns was not one of them. He still recorded a double-double. This is Minnesota's first playoff win in 14 years. By the way, I just realized that I have yet to properly name this series. Perhaps the Mother Nature series, considering the extreme temperatures in which these two teams play. I don't know. If you have something better, please email us, sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. And the Early Bird Special Series has been mostly one-sided as the Warriors prepare to eliminate San Antonio tonight in Game 4. More importantly, though, we here at Sports would like to extend our sincerest condolences to Spurs head coach Greg Popovich, as his wife Erin Popovich passed away earlier this week. She was beloved among the players and local fans as she was known for her generosity. She was 67 years old, and as a result, Coach Popovich was not present for Game 3 and did miss Game 4 as well. Many of the Spurs, including longtime stars Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, considered her a second mom. The Spurs played with a heavy heart today, and with that, and the fuel from the power of love, they actually staved off elimination and extended the series, winning 103-90 in front of the home fans in San Antonio. So they'll have at least one more game to prove that they can upset the Warriors. Back in January, it appeared that the Pelicans were done. They had lost one of their best players, DeMarcus Cousins, to an injury, leaving just Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday to pick up the pieces. Somehow, these two pulled off a decent end to the season, reached the playoffs, and even more fascinating is the fact that they were able to sweep the number 3 team in the league, in the West at least. That was the Portland Trailblazers. In Saturday Game 4, the matchup Holiday and Davis, they combined for 88 points, which ties an NBA record for most points ever by a duo in a postseason game. The previous holders, for those curious, were John Havlicek and JoJo White for the Celtics. This is the second straight year that Portland was swept in the first round. Next is the Loud Noises series between the Thunder and the Jazz. OKC proving to have their hands full against Utah. More specifically, Ricky Rubio, who came away with a triple-double in Game 3 last night in a game in which the Thunder lost 115-102. He is the first Jazz player to record a triple-double since John Stockton in 2001. Thunder did start out strong in this one with a 12-point lead, but Utah came back with a 20-4 run, putting themselves on top for the rest of the game. Thunder star Russell Westbrook was not amused, claiming that he will shut that naughty word off in the next game when discussing Ricky Rubio. That next game, by the way, is tomorrow night, where we will indeed see if that poop is shut off. All right, we have one more break for you, but when we return, it's all about baseball, the NFL draft, and as per fan request, the greatest sport on 4 wheels, NASCAR. Make sure your phone battery is on full, because sports. We'll be right back.
Hi, Nick Drago again. I'm still waiting on you to contact me about putting your ad on my show. Remember, friends, I'm offering this for free. We want to keep building our viewership, and it would be a great opportunity for your business, or it's a great spot for just a personal message. Sports would love it if you would advertise with us, and I'll advertise anything within reason. So if you or a friend would like to have your advertisement present on our show, please contact me at sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. I'll be waiting patiently by my computer.
And we're back with baseball action. First matchup was the Royals and Tigers with an even split during the doubleheader and the Saturday-Sunday games. Tigers scored 12 on Saturday. The Blue Jays then took a trip to the Big Apple and came away with 1 after the Yankees went ham. The Pirates and Phillies in the spirit of the Penguins-Flyers series, although Flyers fans probably like this one a little better. Phils won all 4. Indians and Orioles, with Cleveland winning 2 of 3. Twins stunned by the Rays who swept them. Mets and Braves faced off in a hard-hitting, high-flying series, with Atlanta winning 2 of 3 with 1 game postponed. Mariners and Rangers in a divisional matchup, which went in Seattle's favor. Houston crushed the poor White Sox, winning all 3 and outscoring them 27-2. Marlins and Brewers took the field as well, with Milwaukee sweeping. Reds and Cardinals in a rematch from last week, again ending in a sweep in St. Louis's favor. Cubs and Rockies, it was a close matchup with Chicago winning. Padres fell to the Diamondbacks in 2 of the 3. That Boston team in the A's was the most unexpected from this weekend. Oakland won 2 of 3, including a no-hitter by Sean Manaea against the best statistical team in the league. Giants in LA to face the Angels. San Fran won 2 of the 3 to surprise LA. And lastly is the Nationals-Dodgers, both having a disappointing start to the season, with each winning a game. And the rubber match is occurring as of this recording. So listen up, fans, because here are the standings. In the AL East, Boston's on top, 17-3. Jays at 13-8. Yankees picking up steam at 11-9. Rays took 4th place at 8-13, and the Orioles are in last at 6-16. Central's reverted back to the Indians at 11-8. Twins at 8-8. Tigers at 9-11. Royals 5-15, and the White Sox at 4-14. Finally, in the West, Houston taking the top spot at 16-7. Angels 14-7. Mariners at 11-9. A's at 10-11, and Texas at 8-15. Moving on to the NL, Mets on top of the East, still at 14-6, but a rough week allowed the Phils to catch up at 14-7. Braves at 12-8, Nats at 10-11, Marlins 5-16 for the NL Central. St. Louis is now in first at 13-8, Brewers 14-9, Pirates dropped to 12-10. Oof. Cubs at 9-9, Reds at 3-18. Lastly, the West has Arizona at 14-6, Rockies 12-10, Dodgers 9-8, Giants 8-12, and Padres 8-14. Remember, these may be changed based on the lateness of some of tonight's games. So some leaders, Mookie Betts with the highest average at 366. Manny Machado's built at 8 home runs thus far. Javier Baez and Jed Lowry each with 23 ribbies. Scherzer, Porcella, Corbin, and Severino all have 4 wins. Johnny Cueto at .35 ERA, that's the lowest for a starter. Garcias at .86, lowest for a reliever. And Corbin, he's got 48 strikeouts. Now, everyone knows when it comes to high school baseball, some teams are just better than others. 2 schools in Massachusetts learned this the hard way in a matchup this past week. Now, before I tell you the score, you should know that this game was played by mistake. One of the schools, Old Rochester, the coach tried to set up a 2-game series with a school named Notre Dame. However, he picked the wrong school, ended up playing Notre Dame Cristo Rey. Now, the score of this game was 82-0. First off, yes, that is the real score, and so are the rest of these numbers. Old Rochester's pitcher not only threw a no-hitter, but went 15 of 17 in batting. Yikes. Also, Cristo Rey gave up 92 hits and committed 22 errors. Now, the coach for Old Dominion, he tried everything he could to stop the bleeding. He asked for the game to be over in the 4th, and the umpires just wouldn't allow it. He told his team to only bunt. He stopped them from taking extra innings, and yet we wound up with the result that we did. The 2 will play again, but with a junior varsity squad taking the field just to even up play. And believe it or not, this is not the most lopsided game in high school history, that being a 109-0 slaughter. And this weekend marks the NFL draft. Basically, the point in the offseason where we're so desperate for football, we're willing to sit through 3 days of Roger Goodell on stage. Joking aside, though, this year's draft should be a particularly good one. For starters, you have the Cleveland Browns with 2 picks in the top 4 and holes all over the place to fill. The smart bet is on them taking running back Saquon Barkley, but they may end up going quarterback as well, as this is a deep QB pool. 2 weeks ago, we mentioned previous Heisman winner Lamar Jackson. He's projected as the 5th highest ranking QB, behind Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, and Baker Mayfield. Now, it's a safe bet that one of those guys will go to Cleveland at 1 or 4, and one will go to the Jets at 3. The New York Football Giants draft 2nd, and the big debate out of the Meadowlands is, do you push the button and draft Eli Manning's replacement, or do you really just go for it and get somebody who can help you win right now? The Jets will likely take a high-rated QB, whoever's left on the board, and the last time they drafted this high and traded up for a quarterback was when they drafted Mark Sanchez, who did lead them to back-to-back conference finals, but never fully developed in subsequent seasons. Draft starts Thursday night, so be ready to bring on all the fun. Now, here on Sports, well, we like to give the fans what they like. This past weekend, it was requested that I talk about motorsports on our show, and while I must admit I know nothing about NASCAR and Formula One, I'm willing to give it a go for you, the fans. This weekend was the Toyota 400, which means they raced 400 laps? That's probably right. But gosh, that's a lot of cars going in a big circle. The big winner was Kyle Busch, who sits in first in the standings after winning the last 3 races in a row. I haven't the slightest idea if that is a common or rare occurrence, but I know it can't be easy. Kyle Busch also won the O'Reilly 500 and the delicious-sounding Food City 500. Somehow Kevin Harvick has just as many wins, but he's in third place because he has less points, which kind of stinks. All joking aside, though, the next race is the Geico 500. That's in Talladega next Sunday. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix was this morning for Formula One. Daniel Ricciardo was the big winner in this one, finishing at 1:35.36.380, which is a lower time than all of the other racers, and I'm assuming is pretty good. In the standings, Sebastian Vettel is first with 54 points, followed by Britain's Lewis Hamilton and Finland's Valtteri Bottas. The next race is the Gran Premio de España, which takes place on May 13th. Keep with sports, as we not only learn more about these two sports, but try to understand exactly what I'm trying to say. And getting to the end of our program, it's our Athlete of the Week. This week goes to Sean Mania of the Oakland Athletics after his no-no against that Boston team yesterday. Mania hails from Wanata, Indiana, where his father, of Samoan descent, settled down during the Vietnam War. Manaea was drafted by the Kansas City Royals in 2013, but initially was unable to play due to a labral tear in his hip. He played in the minors for a short time before being traded to Oakland in exchange for Ben Zobrist in July 2015, making his MLB debut in 2016. And in 2017, he broke a record for most consecutive games pitched in which he was out for more than 2 innings and allowed no more than 5 hits. That's a really random stat. However, it's the longest streak by an American League pitcher since 1913. And we wish Sean the best as he continues his so far fantastic career. And now it's to the point in the show that always gives me the feels, that of course being mail time. Teddy Smith out of Richmond, Virginia wanted us to give a shout out to his girlfriend this week as she's a big fan of the show, so thank you, Ashley, for listening. The young gun Jamie Grum has also resurfaced this week to tell us how much he's been enjoying playoff hockey and that his Pittsburgh Penguins are looking good enough to win yet another championship. For those fans at home that want to give us a shout out, have questions, or just want your comments shared, please feel free to email us at sportsreactspodcast@gmail.com. The more fan participation we get, the more fun this podcast can be. Special thanks, as usual, to our logo designer and content editor, Johanna Albert, a.k.a. my fiance, who is going to miss me while I'm away for my bachelor party next weekend. Of course, our theme song is a song called Golden Sunrise by Josh Woodward. A link to his website can be found in the show notes. Thank you to Mary Kay Albert for sharing us on Facebook. Special thanks to Brendan Marshall and Jason Kuntz for requesting that we discuss racing on our show. I know Brendan in particular is a huge fan of motorsports and wants to hear more about it in the future. Others who liked or listened to our podcast include Christina Ryan, Jorge Pajares, Gary Albert, Kim Bafalco, and J. Rod J. Jordan. Don't forget to like, comment, or share if you want your name read on the air. Upcoming games for this week, we have NBA and NHL action every day because playoff fun just can't stop. MLB series to watch includes the A's and Rangers in a divisional matchup along with the Padres and Rockies. NFL draft is on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And that's it for today, friends. I'll be back Monday, the 23rd. But until then, like, comment, share, email us, draw on the wall, spin around in circles really fast, and eat some Tide Pods. Actually, don't really do that, please. Our program is now available in North Korea. Kim Jong-un is a big fan and plays us for his prisoners. Our email, once again, is sportsreactspodcast@gmail.com. I'm Nick Drago, and I'm done for the day. Thanks for stopping by, friends.